So if you'd like to know more about our participants, you could check out their favorite book titles. I put The Giver. I teach it every single year. Just such a good story of friendship and kind of going against the grain. I'm going to do a quick screen share for us just to show you what you need for today's session. Okay. All right, now you are on my computer screen, and there's a lot there. So first, if everyone could open one tab and go to LDC Learner. We're going to be working in there a little bit today. And then in a separate tab, so just a quick reminder, to get to this, you go to the Learn tab, and it's right over here, LDC Learner. And then in the other tab, we're always going to go to the opposite, to Leader. So you'll have those two open. And let me go over our agenda for today. So our goals today are, you're going to learn a little bit about some LDC facilitation tips, snapshots. We're going to have a guest come in to tell you about those. Then we're going to talk about unpacking high quality tasks in breakout groups, because the goal for you is to create tasks that are either good to go or exemplary. And then we're going to do a pitfall review with a thinking partner. So Barry and I have paired everyone up, and you're going to give each other comments on your tasks for that. Just a quick note, Barry's not going to be here today because she's on a plane going to a conference. So instead we're going to have a new participant called Megan. She'll join us. And then we will talk about our next steps a little bit later on. So I'm going to quit sharing my screen. Okay. And what I'd like everyone to do to kick off is in chat, you're going to share the content that was most useful in designing your task. So think about everything you read in the last week or two. What content was most useful in designing your task? I'm going to add that into chat as well, just so you have the question. So if everyone could just type it into chat.
Barbara?
Yes?
Is this the same course as the coaches one?
Yes, like we're learning to coach our teachers through LDC.
Okay, I didn't know if it was the teacher one or the coach one.
Mm-hmm. Well, it could, whichever one you read this week.
I didn't know if it was the teacher.
Sorry?
Coach one. That's coming in late.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming in late.
How we learn to link.
There you go.
Links.
All right, take about 1 more minute. What was the content that was useful in designing your task? So think about everything you read this last week. And once you see some responses in chat, I'd like everyone to respond to at least one person in chat based on what they said. Maybe you can agree with them or suggest something different.
I agree with the templates making it much easier.
Awesome. We're just going to do 1 more minute of just silent writing in chat, and then we'll share. Okay, let's come back together. A lot of talk about the templates. Would anyone like to share? What was that content that spoke to you? I think, Betty, are you speaking to us? I'm not sure, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, I sound like a phone commercial. I said that the templates made it very easy, and the drop-down standards where you could just go in and choose the standards, it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pleasantly surprised.
Seems overwhelming at first, but everything's just like right there.
Mm-hmm. That's the truth. It seems overwhelming at first.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I was in your shoes as a teacher doing it for the first time, there was just so much information, but just starting with a template and one task really kind of makes it easier. Can we hear from Scott too? I know you wrote about the templates.
Yes, well, I like the templates because they're the way it's worded. It'll be helpful in avoiding those pitfalls. That you know, if it's like, you know, analyze front reading this text, analyze this. I mean, the words from the, all you have to do is match up the standard with the words that are in the template, and you know you're going to be getting what you're wanting. So that was pretty useful for me anyway.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott. And I'm so happy you mentioned pitfalls. That's exactly what we're going to go into at the end of today's session. So really great catch. So I'd like to introduce Megan Jensen to everybody. She's going to be co-facilitating today. And she's the I3 LDC Grant Director out in California. So she works with hundreds of schools in helping them create standards-aligned tasks and curricula. So Megan?
Good to see you all. Thanks for letting me pop in for today. I'm just so excited to see different faces. And I'm coming to you live from an elementary school in Los Angeles. So I'll be popping off at about 4:40 your time. So I appreciate you letting me be here until then. I'll stay with you through our breakout sessions and then I'll hop off. And right now, well, Barbara, do you want to overview agenda and so on, or do you want me to pop into talking about our tech tip?
We just reviewed the agenda before you got here. So
perfect.
All set?
Okay. Let me share my screen and I'll start us off with our Core Tools tech tip, which is relevant to you right now as you're embarking upon your design work. So I'm going to share with you what we call our snapshots in Core Tools. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up, nods. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm showing you a module here that I do have editing access on. I worked on it with another elementary school teacher here in Los Angeles. And today I want to give you a heads up or an overview of what these snapshots are and how you can use them. And then periodically throughout subsequent weeks in this course, your facilitators will also expose you to additional tech tips like this. So they're good ones to continually be reminded of so that you can do things like, in this case, save a version of your work. So a snapshot I always describe as very much like taking a screenshot of your work so that you can save versions. Let's say you go through 3-4 drafts of your task, and we want to make sure that you have a way to save your previous work so that you don't lose those ideas if any of them become relevant for you as you're continuing to draft. So I'm in this module here, comparing and contrasting character responses across 2 texts. And let's imagine, yeah, I've just rewritten the prompt for myself and I'm liking where I'm at. I don't want to lose previous work. I can take a snapshot of it, very much like a screenshot, just so I save that work. To do so, I'll head up to the red More Options button and hit Create Snapshot. And then it very much does what you might do on your phone, right? It takes a snapshot or a screenshot of your module at this point in time.
Yeah, it's like what Google Docs does automatically for you.
Right. So keep in mind, Core Tools does not, it's updating constantly with you, quite like Google Docs, but it's not, you can't go access previous versions like you could in Google Docs if you were to click up top in a Google Doc to see previous edits. So this is your way to preserve previous edits. So I did just take that, oh, give me a moment. Okay, I did just take that snapshot. And in order to access it, I'll always head to the upper left in the modules. There's a little arrow pointing right, always in the upper left corner. And this will reveal a menu to you that will do a couple of things. First, it allows you to jump to different sections in your module so that you don't have to scroll incessantly to get there. So for instance, if I clicked on instruction in this menu, it automatically will pop me down into my instructional ladder. So the section in my module where my skills list and then my mini tasks to teach each skill are included. Your snapshots are always included on the bottom of this menu. So I can click on that and then I can head in and access the snapshots I've created. So you can see I created 2 for this module on August 24th when we were doing more extensive drafting to it. And then here is my most current module snapshot, which I took today. What you can also do, and what I recommend, is not just leaving them titled snapshot 1, 2, and 3. You can title them specific things that clue you into what was going on in that draft so that you are more quickly able to get back to that draft should you need. So in order to do that, you'll click on these 3 vertical dots. Those always indicate a menu in Core Tools on whatever the snapshot is that you want to name or rename. I've got a number of options here. I can actually go to the snapshot, and that will open up the full module for me so that I can head in, go look at my previous tasks, look at previous mini tasks, anything like that. Right now, I just want to show you quickly how you can rename the snapshot. So let's imagine that I started this task with a cause and effect template, and I then switched over to comparison after a few iterations and wanting to really ensure alignment with my focus standards. I might title this cause effect template draft, just so that I know this is the snapshot that includes that template. So it's a quick way for me to know what I'm looking at when I open up my snapshot menu. And then you can click rename, and there it is for you. So quick tip there, just a nice way to continue saving your versions. Comes in very, very handy because as you'll see, you can really start to get into creating many iterations of these tasks. It's just a great way to track your thinking. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is actually take us straight into talking about starter tasks, which are another really wonderful tool available to you in Core Tools. And then from there, Barbara and I will break out into those separate rooms so that we can look more specifically at starter tasks that are appropriate for your grade band and potentially discipline. So we'll spend some time unpacking good to go tasks as we move forward here. Before we do that, I do want to take this time just to better understand or make sure everybody understands what we mean by starter tasks and how you can use those as a resource as you move deeper into your instructional design.
And some of you, I was giving comments and feedback on your module so far, and I noticed many of you are using starter tasks already.
Okay.
So you have a really great foundation for getting to that good to go and exemplary task.
Beautiful. So this will be a little bit of a review for some of you. I'm going to move through a couple of these slides quickly. I don't want to be, too chalk and talk about it, but just as a quick overview, what we mean by starter tasks are tasks that have the bulk of the instructional design decisions completed for you. In particular, they're tasks that have the reading standards, and I'll expand from that and say literacy standards, because sometimes you'll see the reading standards and the writing standard really nicely embedded in the task. That means a previous author really made sure that the key thinking work of the focus standards is clear in the prompt. The prompt is asking the students to explicitly engage with the thinking work of those literacy standards. They're also discipline specific, and we'll get into a little more of what that means. For instance, if you're looking for a social studies or science task, you really want to make sure it's aligned to reading standard 3 because you'd really like students analyzing development of an idea across a text. You can head in and find a starter task that is exactly as it sounds, a good starter for you to then make additional decisions based on the content you want students exposed to and the text you want them exposed to for that assignment. But in a nutshell, some of the key early decisions for the task design have already been done, so it can just make your life a bit easier. As I mentioned, these tasks really start with the standards. So we talk about how people have different entry points into creating their writing assignments, and that these entry points are all valid at different times, depending upon your own purpose for having students engage in writing in response to their reading, depending upon the time of the school year, and also depending upon some of the values that you as a school community make regarding inputs, so content and text your students cover, and outputs, types of products, amount of products you really want students producing during the school year. You'll have different entry points. Some people, of course, they already know what their scope and sequencing for the school year is. They know what text they really want students engaging with during any given unit, and their entry point often is the text or the content. And then their next step is to decide, or identify rather, the reading and writing standards that lend themselves best to deep engagement with that content. In this case, with the starter tasks, they are focused on the focus standards, and in particular on the reading and the writing focus standards. Those are their entry point, as it were. Here's our trusty stool image. You'll recognize this, and this is just a quick refresher on how we start with the standards. So in the spirit of backward design and in implementing with our true end in mind, the LDC task templates and overall planning tools really allow you to and encourage you to begin by identifying the standards and thus the thinking work you really want students engaging in with the assignment that you're considering and designing. And in that case, we do want to make sure the focus standards cluster has a reading standard and a writing standard. If you're designing a task that will be taught in science, social studies, or another technical subject, then you'll also have a content standard. As you continue designing, and as we look at some of the starter tasks today, we'll see a little more about how the reading standard in particular can really amplify or lift up the work of the content standard and give students a very clear pathway, I like to picture it, for how they can really access and do the work of the content standard. If we're working with an ELA task, that's when we'll see 2 reading standards because the reading standards are the content for ELA and 1 writing standard. Oh, one moment, my friends. Okay. So let's head in and look at an example. I have 2 for you. We'll look at 1 ELA one and 1 social studies one. So because starter tasks are already aligned to key literacy and writing standards that are a good fit together, as I said, there are just less decision points that you would need to make as you first get started with writing tasks. So in particular, consider these as really good options for if you're coaching other people who are just getting involved in instructional design work. This is a really nice way to limit or lessen the cognitive load, as it were, at the beginning of the design experience. So here's that ELA example. You can see it's for 4th grade. This author is focusing on the reading standard for literature. It's reading standard 3. This is the one that has to do with development over the course of text. And for literature, it goes deeper into character development over the course of over the course of the text. Task reads, after reading chapter 7 of Phineas L. McGuire Gets Slimed, write a literary analysis in which you explain how Francis O'Rourke Dowell uses one character's thoughts, words, and actions to convey the character's traits to the reader. Support your response with evidence from the text. Include examples of the author's use of speech style and figurative language to convey your message to readers. So what I'll show you quickly is this task color-coded. So this is where we can analyze a prompt to make sure we see evidence of the focus standards in the assignment prompt for the students. That way we know absolutely without a doubt this prompt is asking the students to do that thinking work we want them doing. So you can see reading standard 3 for 4th graders expects that they will describe in depth a character, setting, or event in a story, and draw on specific details in the text, like a character's thoughts, words, or actions. So if we investigate the task here, we can see very clearly that the prompt author, is asking the students to go and do that work of looking at one character's thoughts, words, and actions. And that's really going to enable the student to describe that character in depth and thus convey character traits and understand how the author herself is using those thoughts, words, and actions to fully convey the traits. This author, the prompt author, also added an additional language standard that asks the students to demonstrate an understanding of figurative language. So that's why you'll see this added demand in the prompt. So this is something they included in addition to the basic task template. And this asks students to include examples of the author's use of speech style and figurative language in their response. And so again, I can really clearly see alignment. This author is very explicitly asking the students to demonstrate their understanding of figurative language by including examples of the author using figurative language. So you can see here, if you were working with 4th grade students and really wanted them engaging with the work of reading standard 3, describing characters and drawing on specific details in text to do that, this could be a great starter for you. You might do some things different. In particular, this prompt focuses on a single chapter in the text. Depending upon your class, your students, the time of year, you might select the full story, a short story, the amount of text you might be exposing to students for this assignment might be different. So that may be a section you would change. You could also adjust the additional demand if this isn't something you're working explicitly with students on at the point in your school year that you're aiming to teach this. You could take it away, or you could even replace a speech style, as you see here, and figurative language with a different literary device if that's something that's more appropriate in your scope and sequence. So these are things to think about. You can see the work of the focus standards is clear in the prompt, but you can make different decisions about what's in the prompt, particularly decisions about the text, the content, and then any additional and specific elements or details, like in this case, speech style and figurative language. So that is the gist. I'm going to put one more example up on the screen just so you can see it, and then I'll open it up to any questions. You can see this example is for 5th grade social studies. The focus standard this author is targeting is reading informational texts, reading standard 6. This one really focuses on looking at author point of view in text. And this this prompt asks the kids to read articles from opposing points of view about the Boston Massacre, and then write an essay in which they explain the similarities and differences in each article's point of view about the Boston Massacre. So if you want your students doing that same type of thinking work, identifying points of view in text and then explaining similarities and differences in points of view, this is a great starter task. You might be having them do that on a totally different topic with different texts that you pull for your social studies classroom, and then you would pop those in there. But overall, you've got a great frame, slightly more filled in task template to do that with. So any other questions you guys have about this? I'd love to hear before we transition into the breakout rooms. Any early ideas you've had for those of you that found starter tasks that you're working on? Okay. Well, I know some of you are just starting your thinking on this. So keep these in mind. Barbara and I are going to take you now into some collections of these starter tasks to take a closer look at what they are, what standards they focus on, and which ones might best suit your purposes for the assignment tasks that you're developing.
All right, thank you, Megan. So I'm going to take over the screen in a moment. Here we go. So to start off with, I'm going to ask that Megan pops the curriculum alignment rubric into chat. And for full transparency, the goal of all of our work together is for you to all have good to go or exemplary tasks at the end of our 8 weeks together. And the way that we rate tasks is using the curriculum alignment rubric. So when Megan pops that in, you can go right into it. In the beginning here, we have the pitfall checklist, which we'll end today's session with. You'll be assigned a partner and you'll give each other feedback based on these pitfalls. And then right below, we have the scoring guide. So this is how we give feedback on your tasks when it's time. So far, we've just given comments, but we go through like a vigorous round of feedback in which we use the language of this rubric to give you feedback on your task that you are writing. So there's 3 main categories: work in progress, good to go, and exemplary. So our goal is to get you guys into one of these columns. And in order to do so, we're going to look at some starter tasks so you have an idea of what that exemplary work looks like. And so you have an example of it. All right. So in order to do this work, we're going to go into 2 breakout groups, and I tried to organize it into elementary folks with Megan and secondary folks with me, so you can see the different types of starter tasks for your grade level. So let me stop my share. Okay. And we're going to get into breakout groups now in one moment. Sorry, everyone, I have a new computer, so it's just a little new for me. Okay, so I am Oh, there we go. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your desktop.
I don't know why it's not letting me leave the full screen.
Is there a way, did you hit stop share and it's still doing this funny thing?
Yes, I keep hitting it. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry everyone.
No, that's okay.
So I'm going to just try restarting the meeting for us, just to get back to the home screen. So I'm just gonna end the meeting and then we'll all come right back in, okay? Let me see, cohort. Can you also see my screen?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not sure if you click on the bar, that bar that your mouse is currently on, if you just click
Yeah.
on it, what happens? It gets big. Now click stop share. Oh, see, it keeps minimizing that window and I just wonder why.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm so sorry everyone. So since you still see my screen, I'm just going to take you through the starter tasks on this one screen. And I'm gonna have Megan man the chat for us.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have the starter task collection, which you all have access to, and it is organized by the different grades or content areas. So we'll start with secondary ELA, since some of you are ELA teachers, and it's really easy to just use this as kind of a basis for your own work. And we're going to take a look at this starter task, impact of word choice on tone. What I'd like everyone to do right now is you're going to read the task part. So here we go. The task is right here. How does Shirley Jackson's choice of words and phrases affect tone? And then take a look at the standards. And in chat, we're going to write about what is strong about this task and what can you learn from this task that you can apply to your own design. So have Megan write those two questions into chat for us. What is strong about this task? And what can you learn from this task that you can apply to your own design? And we'll take about 4 minutes. So until 4:33. All right, so I'd love to hear from some of you. What is strong about this starter task?
Connie, I'd love to hear if you don't mind sharing. I think you really hit the nail on the head about how the wording of the standard provides a very, very clear direction, an unambiguous direction for the students. If you could talk a little bit more about that.
Connie, you may have to unmute yourself.
There she is. Might be having some difficulties.
She'll use my computer. Sharing.
Can everyone just make sure you're muted so we don't hear that background noise?
And repeat the
Hey,
question, please.
Connie, I just liked your comment about how the task author used
What was the question? She's talking.
Can you hear me?
We lost you.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I appreciated that you said the task author used that phrase word choice straight from the standard, and wondered if you could explain to the group why that stuck out to you and how you feel like that gives clear direction to the students. We can see in your comment, why I pulled this out is I really like that you conveyed how taking that phrase word choice gives more direction to the students to notice specific things in the text, in this case, figurative and connotative meaning. So if we're thinking about what we learn from this kind of starter task, it is to really pull specific parts of the reading standard that you want to use to give your kids that really clear purpose for their reading.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Hello?
Oh, there you are.
Oh,
We hear you.
sorry, we didn't get the, oh, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. We hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
You know, I'll write to her in the chat. Let's scoot on because I'm not sure Connie can hear us.
Okay.
If you want to,
We're trying. We're trying.
I'll help her out on my end.
All right. Oh, sorry, everyone. I just wanted to make sure we. Oh. All right. Let's hear from someone else. What is strong about this task? Let's hear from Courtney. What are some of your ideas?
Are you talking to Courtney
Brinkley.
Okay. One of the things that I really noticed was just that not only were the standards really concise and clearly stated, but they asked them to do a literary analysis, which would go along with, you know, ELA and also matches well with what they're required to do in their reading work and their thinking work for the task. I just thought that was a real strength of the task.
Awesome. Thank you. And can everyone just take a second, make sure you're muted because we're getting a lot of background noise. Okay, thank you. So yes, thanks for sharing that, Courtney. Yeah, the cool thing about this is you can just replace this story with any other story that you want to do with the kids. All right. So can everyone take a look quickly at this curriculum alignment rubric? And what aspects of this curriculum alignment rubric from either good to go or exemplary do you see within the task? So I'd love to just hear some of your thoughts. Anyone could share. What criteria do you see from good to go or exemplary within that lottery task?
The task identifies a cluster of 2 to 4 focus standards.
Mm-hmm. Would you say it's more in the good to go or exemplary range for the focus standards? Like, are they there, or do they really amplify one another?
I think they work together, so I would probably lean toward the exemplary, I guess.
Mm-hmm. How do they work together?
I'd have to look at it again.
Yep.
Because they're using the word choices and phrases from the story to support evidence and to analyze impact of the word choice.
Mm-hmm.
They're citing and they're using the word choice, those 2 different standards.
Yeah, really great points. So all of these starter tests that we have, they are all within that good to go exemplary area. So they're really a great way for you to have a foundation for a strong task and then move forward with your own work. Great. I will just show you one more for a different level, just so you can see how it may apply to your own kids. Here's some elementary science starter tasks. And I know some of you, I know Courtney Brinkley just wrote one about science and offspring. So it would be so cool if we can add her work to our collection one day. But again, these are organized by different standards. So you might want to just take one and switch out the scientific text and make it your own. So the last part of today is I wanted to share everyone with your feedback partners. So if you take a look here, Barry and I made a list. I think we're getting feedback from someone. If you can just make sure your microphones are muted. Okay, great. So, nope. So these are everyone's feedback partners. You've been assigned someone. We try to aim for people from different districts working together in most cases. So if you can take a moment and write down the name of your feedback partner. We have Patrick with Helen, Cindy with Megan, Scott and Courtney, Tian, Connie, and so forth. And these are the people that you're going to be working with over the next week. And our goal for you is that you'll share each other on your modules. And we'd like you to take a look at this pitfall checklist. And you're going to give one another feedback using this pitfall checklist. So you'll do this as comments within one another's modules. So for example, if I'm partnered with Scott, I will open up his module when he shares it with me, and I'll take a look at the task and I'll think about, do any of these pitfalls, are any of them present within his task? And I'll make him some comments and he'll do the same for me. So Barry's going to send out an email with all of these directions for you, but I just wanted to make sure everyone has your feedback partner written down so you can communicate with that person through email and through your modules on Core Tools. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Barbara, would you mind just modeling how to share your module with someone in Core Tools?
Sure.
And then one other quick question in the chat was if you need their email to share. You do not. Barbara will show you. You can input their email or their name in Core Tools. Be wary, my friends, though, of people that have the same name. There might be, for instance, there's another Megan Jensen in Core Tools who is not me. So you do want to make sure that you're sharing with the right person. And that's why it can sometimes be easier just to pop their email in rather than their name if they have a more common name.
Mm-hmm. So I would go into my module that I am working on. Let's find one of my own. I'm just going to create one really quickly to show you how to do this. So I have my module here. I wrote my task. I have my standards. The feedback from Barbara is right here. So what I would do is I would go to more options and collaboration settings. So I could put in the email address or the name of my partner here. So say my partner is Megan Jensen. There are two, and I know that this one is my partner Megan. So I would click on it. You could also do this through email addresses. When Barry sends out the email, you have everyone's contact information there. And I'd like to give Megan can comment access, so she can actually write in my module to give me that feedback. And if you want to write a nice message, like I'm excited to work with you, you can do that and submit. And that'll share the module. So then you'll go into your partner's module, and in a comment bubble, you'll give them feedback using this pitfall rubric that we share with you. All right, are there any other questions about giving feedback?
I have one more question, if I may.
Yes, please
All right,
do.
so once we share, thank you. I shared mine with Courtney, but how will I know? Will there be an indication that when she shares hers with me or whatever?
Yep, you will receive an email that she shared it with you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, and you also get emails when someone comments on it. Like I know you all received emails, well, most of you, when I made some comments on yours this last weekend. So that'll be the clue. Okay, any other questions?
If we are visiting the group or
Mhm.
are Like, will Kimba send us our partners?
If you are visiting the group, yes. So we will just have to assign you separate partners. We'll keep it as like visitors with one another. So are
Okay.
you, yeah.
I wrote Kimba and asked her when she did her meeting, because I'm sure she's assigned us like you've done,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can get our partners.
Yep. So we will work on that and we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So due to the technical difficulty, we're going to end a little bit early today, but I'd like us to all go into chat first and add in what is one word or short phrase that is resonating with you from today's meeting. Okay, so just a reminder, in chat, we're going to type up what is one word or phrase about something that is resonating with you today. And once you do that, you can pop off. I will stay on for anyone that has any trouble. If you're having trouble linking your module, I will stay on and help you with that as well. But thank you, everyone. I apologize for my new laptop glitches with Zoom.
Barbara,
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you about these starter tasks. We have not talked about those in Kimba's group, but when I go into the LDC library, all I see is task ladder. I don't see starter task.
And let's do a quick tour.
So are you saying that's what we should have started with?
You could if you want to. If you have other ideas, you don't have to start with a starter task.
Mm-hmm. To see where it says task ladder.
What I usually do is I just go to starter tasks. Yeah, and it's a collection. So you can, I always unclick module and mini task and I keep collection. And then this is the collection of starter tasks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Check mini.
And then you can even narrow it down by discipline. So it'll show you like all the science ones.
So you said to unclick mini task.
Mm-hmm. And module.
Oh, and module. And just collection, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there they are. Okay.
Yeah, and that takes you to the library.
So are you saying this is something that, like I've already done my homework, my module, but are you saying this is what we should look at to kind of model ours off of?
Yeah, if you just want to look at a couple of them to get inspiration, it could help you with the wording, choosing your standards.
Okay.
So yeah, I would definitely suggest that. Peek around.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Any questions? All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll end our session here.